but it's actually a pretty strong, it's a pretty strong Wi-Fi. So I'm going to close up everything else, make sure that we're on and good to go. And if we have any problems, I cannot blame, this is not my Wi-Fi that will be not functioning. This is my father-in-law's Wi-Fi. So thank you everybody for being here. This is, it's great to see you. And we will not be here next week, because next week I do not know exactly where I'm going to be. So I mean, I'm going to be on my way home, but we're not going to be in an internet friendly way. We're coming back through Iceland, and I have no idea where we're going to be exactly, and what our Wi-Fi will be like.
Will there be a Tuesday class?
Not next Tuesday either. So no Tuesday or Wednesday next week, because again, one of the days we're traveling, and one of the days I have no idea what it'll be. But we will be here back on the 26th and the 27th. So 2 weeks from Tuesday and 2 weeks from Wednesday, I will be back, and I will be ready to go. Or the 27th and 28th. It's hard to believe that we're already the middle of July, because this month just began, and we just celebrated the 4th, and all of a sudden this summer, I know everybody says it, but it's really flying by. So again, Diane just said she enjoyed Friday night. I'm glad you were able to see it, Diane. The tech part of it, I think we've nailed it. I think we've got it. We have a wonderful guy, Michael Carland, who's been doing the sound and the video, which we never had a sounded video, the AV guy dedicated, but he's wonderful. It's such a sweet guy, and he's been doing a phenomenal job of getting us, being able to do this without me thinking about it, because I didn't want to have to think about it. I did. Yeah, please.
I have a question for Harvey. In the email this evening that you sent out, Jeff Stein is going to be doing some music. Is it our Jeff Stein?
Harvey, I changed that, by the way. You did not use I caught that error, and you did not use it's Justin Stein, and yes, Mike.
Sorry.
I thought Jeff Stein is a singer, I thought
Harvey decided to not use my correct.
I know he's coming back next month, but
yes. By the way, that's a good. We're on. Jeff doesn't usually come. Jeff and Joyce don't usually come on Zoom. Actually, they very rarely come on Zoom, but they've come to Wednesday nights for many years. It is later in Colorado, but yes, the good news is they're moving back to Santa Clarita. So the Steins, Jeff and Joyce, will be returning. So thank you, Mike, for that.
I just saw that this evening.
I caught it. I had caught it originally, so it's Harvey. It's all right.
We'll forgive you this time, Harvey.
Harvey is so. Jeff Stein found out tonight he's leading service, but it is Justin, and again, it was not in there, but Kenny will be doing the bar and bat mitzvahs as well. So anyways, we have a great cantorial lineup. So
in there.
What? It was in there?
Yeah.
All right, good. So let's read the end of Numbers, folks. Let's take a look at Maseh, which again is part of the double portion that we would have normally read last week. But the word literally means the marches or the travels. The word Maseh is from the root nasa, which is to travel. And so this is the journey. Sometimes it's translated as journeys, and that's what it is. And the word ele there too, these. So the first word that is a unique noun, not a preposition or a article, whatever, a part to, is the marches. And so this is called marches. So these were the marches of the Israelites who started out from the land of Egypt. So it tells us from the beginning of Maseh that we're going back to the beginning. We're going back to where it started, troop by troop, in the charge of Moses and Aaron. So this essentially is going back to the beginning of Numbers, or actually even before that, it's going back to Exodus, because Numbers starts at Mount Sinai. So Moses recorded the starting points of their various marches as directed by the Lord. Their marches by starting points were as follows. So this is a list, it says. here we go. They set out from Ramses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month. Well, that's right after Pesach. That is Pesach. That is right after the next day, right? It was the morrow of the Passover offering that the Israelites started out defiantly in plain view of all the Egyptians. So it reminds us right away that they did it in front of the eyes of all of Mitzrayim, again, with a sense of Biyad Ramah, with a outstretched, or not really an outstretched arm, but a lifted arm, which is like this, Yad Ramah is like this. So they all walked out like this. The Egyptians, meanwhile, were burying those among the Lord, whom the Lord struck down, every firstborn, whereby the Lord executed judgment on their God. So again, it's not just they left Egypt, but let's remind you how they left Egypt. They left out defiantly, and while the Egyptians are still burying their dead, the Egyptians are digging graves, looking up and watching the Israelites go out, which is not the way it tells us exactly in Exodus. But I mean, you can put it together, but it's not phrased like this. So now that's how we left. And so here's where we go. The Israelites set out from Ramses and encamped at Sukkot. And again, Sukkot is the word that we have for Sukkah, but it is originally also a place of tents, a place of maybe again for other people, not just for the Israelites, it was the word Sukkot. They set out from Sukkot and encamped at Etam, which is on the edge of the wilderness. So here they're still at the Egyptian, they're on the Egyptian border. They set out from Etam and turned towards Pi Hahirot, which faces Baal Zephon, and they encamped before Migdal.
Okay.
Now this is all again still in Egypt. Interestingly, here we get to the Red Sea. They set out from Penei Hahirot, which again, this is in Exodus, and passed through the sea into the wilderness. And they made a 3 days journey in the wilderness of Etam and encamped at Marah. Now that's the line. Does anybody see what's there or not there? Anybody want to?
The sea. How did they do that so quickly?
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. They walked through the Red Sea. They walked and they walked through the Red Sea. So, it literally is there, but there's no miraculous moment of us crossing the Red Sea that God stopped the Egyptians and let us pass through and then let the sea come back on the Egyptians. That's it. It's a very nondescript, non-detailed journey of what it meant to go through the Red Sea, right? It's a very miraculous experience in the book of Exodus. It's one of the things that we still talk about. We sing about it every day when we sing Micha Mocha. And here, not very dramatic.
4 words.
Yeah. Yep. And we already heard a little bit of detail about how they left Egypt. So it's not like they couldn't have added that. So it's very interesting to hear the focus is really on the journey and not. And by the way, pay attention to when there is, a mention of something happening there. There it's literally just passed through the sea. They set out from Marah and came to Elim. There were 12 springs in Elim and 70 palm trees. So they encamped there. They set out from Elim and encamped by the Sea of Reeds. They set out from the Sea of Reeds and encamped in the wilderness of Zin. So again, this is all kind of along the Red Sea. As we mentioned before, a couple of weeks ago, it is not probably the Sea of Reeds. It is the Red Sea based on as I showed you last time, and as my professor Richard Friedman pointed out, when they're by the Red Sea, and they're by the Red Sea at the end, when they come up through the other side of the Red Sea, the eastern side of the Red Sea, the part that's by Lot, they use the same word, Yam Suf. So the only place that they could be describing that is both on that side and that side of the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula is the Red Sea. So you can't say one place was the Sea of Reeds and the other place was the Red Sea because it's the same word in Hebrew. So people, again, like to use the word Yam Suf sometimes as a Sea of Reeds. They can, but it is the Red Sea. It's the same words that are used for the Red Sea. So just remember, again, on the other side, it's called Yam Suf, which is the Red Sea. So again, it could be that they called it the Red Sea rather than the color red. They called it the Reed Sea, the Sea of Reeds, but it is that Reed Sea. It's not a different sea. The Sea of Reeds is not a different sea from the Red Sea.
Got it.
They set out from the Sea of Reeds and encamped in the wilderness of Sin. They set out from the wilderness of Sin and encamped in Dovka. So again, normally we're just going to see they started in this place and ended in that place. And they went from this place, essentially they went from this place and then encamped. And that's the word vayachanu. So they vayisau, they traveled or they marched or they set out is the way they translated here, which is again the word maseh is from the same root. So this is I don't know why they didn't say the word. If you're going to say march at the beginning, you might as well say they marched from these places. But again, they traveled here to here. And again, normally you're going to just see they started here and went here. They went from Dovka and Alush. And then it says they went from Alush and then they camped at Rephidim. It was there that the people had no water to drink. And so here we have a little bit of details. And then it doesn't say what happened there, which was that they had one of these instances where they were screaming about the water. It doesn't give us that detail, but it does tell us that this is one of the places. And of course, this is also the place where, because they were moaning and because they were being difficult, they are attacked by the Amalekites. Amalek attacks them in Rephidim, which is not here either. So that's not here. They set out from Rephidim and encamped at the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from the wilderness of Sinai.
Okay.
Oh, are we frozen again?
Does anybody see what we didn't have there?
Okay.
We froze? No. Okay. Oh. Does everybody see what's not there in Sinai? We have no description of what happened at Mount Sinai.
Right. Giving of the Torah.
Right.
Not there. So the two biggest things of the journey get no mention at all, or very little mention. They're passed through the sea. Here it tells us that there was no water to drink, so they could throw out, oh yeah, they're at Mount Sinai, they got the 10 Commandments. So it's very interesting what's not here. Here it tells us there were 12 springs in Elim and 70 palm trees. Really, that's a travel detail that we needed to have, when right here they were at Mount Sinai and that's it. They were encamped in the wilderness. They were there for a year, folks. They were there for a year. It wasn't just they got the 10 Commandments there. They got the law. They built the tabernacle. Everything happens in Leviticus in one place, in Mount Sinai. It begins and ends in Mount Sinai. So it's very interesting that there's nothing there. It's almost the fact that there's nothing there, and the fact that again, it's a very quick detail, non-detailed, but point by point journey. As we say, the triptych of the journey. So here it says they went from Kiprot Chatavat and encamped at Chatzerot. From Chatzerot, they encamped at Rimah. From Rimah, they went to Rimon Perez. From Rimon Perez, they encamped at Libnah. They set out from Libnah and encamped at Risah. They set out from Risah and encamped at Kehelat. They set out from Kehelat and encamped at Mount Shefer. They set out from Mount Shefer and encamped at Haradah. They set out from Haradah and encamped at Machelot. They set out from Machelot and encamped at Tachat. They set out from Tachat and encamped at Tarach, actually. Tarach. They set out from Tarach and encamped at Mitkah. They set out from Mitkah and encamped at Hashmonah. They set out from Hashmonah and encamped at Moserot. And I will tell you that right here, this place, Hashmonah, which we don't really know where that is. We assume, again, it's somewhere in the wilderness. But Hashmonah is very similar to the word Hashmonaim, which is the Hasmoneans. And it's not really a place that we know. But it's interesting that the stop, where they are on the stop, is the 25th place on the stop, which is corresponds to the 25th day of Kislev, which is the day we celebrate Hanukkah. So the Hashmonah, I don't know, we're not really sure where it comes from. It's very similar to, again, Hashmonaim. So, but it's a coincidence or a message, people saw it as a code or as a sign. But yes, the Hashmonaim are called that much, much later. The Hasmoneans are not, and again, we usually call them Maccabees, but their real name is the Hashmonaim. That's their Kohanic name. That's their Kohanic family they're part of. They set out from Moserot and encamped at Bnei Yakan. They set out from Bnei Yakan and encamped at Hor Hagidgad. They set out from Hor Hagidgad and encamped at Yotbat. They set out from Yotbat and encamped at Abronah. They set out from Abronah and encamped at Etzion Geber. And now we're starting back up. From Etzion Geber and encamped in the wilderness of Zin, that is Kadesh. They set out from Kadesh and encamped at Mount Hor on the edge of the land of Edom. We're getting really close to the area around Petra, again, right on the other side of the Jordan River from Israel. And it says right here, Aaron the high priest ascended Mount Hor at the command of the Lord there in the 40th year after the Israelites had left the land of Egypt on the first day of the 5th month. So here we have the death of Aaron at Mount Hor. Now, it did not have the death of Miriam. It did not talk about her dying, or she died, roughly around the same time, but a little earlier we read about her death and by Kadesh, and it does not mention it. It mentions Aaron. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor, which again is roughly 3 years older than Moses is when he died. He was 3 years older than Moses, and they died in the same year. Aaron was 123 and Moses was 120. So he dies on Mount Hor. The Canaanite king of Arad, who dwelled in the Negev in the land of Canaan, learned of the coming of the Israelites. They set out from Mount Hor and encamped at Salmonah. And they set out from Salmonah and encamped at Punan. Now again, this little deal here about the king of Arad seems to be the numbers, I would say this part of the number version of the battle that's recounted in Pinchas, the battle against Sichon and Og, the Canaanite or Amorite, they're called Amorite, but it's the same thing, Canaanite, Amorite kings that Israel goes to war with on the other side of the Jordan. This seems to be like a version of that. This one is Arad, which is actually in very southern part of the Negev today, part of Israel. But it seems to be, again, one of these wars that, or battles that we have. It doesn't actually say that they fought here, but again, it's a little bit of the Canaanites being aware that at least that we're coming. But we don't have that earlier. We didn't have this in the earlier part of Numbers. You didn't miss this. It's not there. From Mount Hor, we set out from Mount Hor and encamped at Salmonah. From Salmonah, we encamped at Punan. From Punan, encamped at Obot. And we set out from Obot and encamped at Ye Abarim in the territory of Moab. And they set out from Ion and encamped at Dibon Gad. And they set out from Dibon Gad and encamped at Almon Diblatayim. And they set out from Almon Diblatayim and encamped in the hills of Abarim before Nebo. And they set out from the hills of Abarim and encamped in the steppes of Moab and Jordan near Jericho. They encamped by the Jordan from Beth Yeshimot as far as Abal Shittim in steppes of Moab. In the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, the Lord spoke to Moses saying, so all of that, those 49 verses, take us to the place that Moses will then take over in the book of Deuteronomy. So the last chapters of Numbers we haven't read yet, but this essentially is the place we stop before we in this place. In the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, the Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, You shall dispossess all the inhabitants of the land. You shall destroy all their figured objects. You shall destroy all their molten images, and you shall demolish all their cult places. And you shall take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have assigned the land to you to possess. You shall apportion the land among yourselves by lot, clan by clan, with larger groups. Increase the share, with smaller groups, reduce the share. Whenever the lot falls for everyone, that shall be his. You shall have your portions according to your ancestral tribes. But if you do not dispossess the inhabitants of the land, those whom you allow to remain shall be stings in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They shall harass you in the land which you live, so that I will do to you what I plan to do to them. And so this is Moses's, well, it's not just, it's you see right here, it's Moses being told to tell the rest of the people, all the people, this. The directions are, when you cross the land, you destroy the Canaanites. You're the agents of my destruction. I was going to destroy them. I would have killed them, but you're going to do it. And so you're doing my work, which is these people are bad people. And if you don't destroy them, they're going to lead you into doing the same things that they did. And again, there is a feeling that this is less of a prophecy and more of a, this is what happened. And this is why it happened. Because we didn't destroy the Canaanites and we didn't completely destroy the Canaanites, we end up becoming like the Canaanites. And essentially, we're left with this. I will do to you what I plan to do to them. And so the punishment is, it's pretty severe, which is you you're going to wind up with the same fate that they had. You're going to be doing the same mistake, making the same mistakes that they're going to make. So you essentially inherit their mistakes. You'll take on their mistakes. So this is it's a warning, or it's a statement of fact, which is that we essentially became like the Canaanites. What happens afterwards essentially becomes a fulfillment of that prophecy, if you will, or again, what Moses, God tells Moses to warn the people, don't become like them, and they do. So the rest of the end of Numbers tells us the Lord spoke to Moses. Again, there's more.
I think he's frozen again.
Oh boy.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. I changed the way this is streaming a little bit. Hopefully it'll work. Instruct the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you as a portion, the land of Canaan with its various boundaries. Your southern sector shall extend from the wilderness of Sin alongside Edom. Your southern boundary shall start on the east from the tip of the Dead Sea. Your boundary shall turn south to the ascent of Akrabim and continue to Zin, and its limit shall be Kadesh Barnea, reaching Chazar Adar and continuing to Asmon. This is the southern and southwest and southeastern boundaries of Israel, which are very consistent with the boundaries of Israel today. So the Sinai Desert was not part of biblical Israel. Based on these dimensions, this is essentially, again, shall return to the Wadi of Egypt and terminate at the sea. So that is the western line, and I'll show you on a map in a second. That's the Wadi of Egypt. Is not actually described exactly what the Wadi of Egypt is, but it's the boundary between Egypt and Israel. It is a wadi. It's a river or dried riverbed that is it's not always dried. Obviously, sometimes it's a river, a wadi, and that boundary that river is known as essentially the boundary with Egypt. That river. So, and again, it goes up to the Mediterranean in the area that is today the Gaza. So the Gaza would have been part of the biblical Israel, and so where the Wadi of Egypt comes out and by the Mediterranean is one of those, again, very not a river, so to speak, but sometimes a river, and that was the boundary, the southwestern boundary of Israel. Now, for the western boundary, you shall have the coast of the Great Sea. So you go along the Mediterranean, as it's called, the Yam HaGadol, the Great Sea. That's your western boundary. This shall be your northern boundary. Draw a line from the Great Sea to Mount Hor. From Mount Hor, draw a line to Lebo Hamath, and let the boundary reach Zedad. The boundary shall run to Tzufon and terminate at Chatzar Enan. This shall be your northern boundary. So that area, by the way, today is in southern Lebanon. This is southern Lebanon. This is not all of Israel's northern territory. As part of it would be in Lebanon. From your eastern boundary, you shall draw a line to Chatzar Hanan to Shafam. From Shafam, the boundary shall ascend to Riblah on the east side of Ain. From there, the boundary shall continue downward and abut on the eastern slopes of the Sea of Kinneret, which is the Sea of Galilee. That is very close to, again, what is the eastern border of Israel in the Golan. Israel is on the eastern slopes of the Kinneret. Actually, before before the 6-day war, Yom Kippur War, to defend the Golan and defend the Kinneret, the eastern slope was under the control of the Syrians, who would lob missiles and rockets at mortars at the kibbutzim and the Kinneret, because those eastern slopes of the Kinneret were not in Israel's control. They are now, and again, it is part of Israel. Israel annexed the Golan Heights and made it part of their country. Did not do that with the Gaza, and did not do that with most of what's called the West Bank. But Golan has been made part of Israel. This along the Jordan and terminate on the Dead Sea, which again is the river boundary with Jordan today. That shall be your land as defined by its boundaries on all sides. So again, in summary, and I'll just pop it up for you to see real quick. That map of modern Israel is very similar on the southern borders and eastern borders. As of how big is the north, but are again God.
Well, we can see each other.
Joyce, you're the host now.
Huh?
You're the host now, it says.
Oh, I am. But I don't have anything to read in front of me, and I don't know the rest of the story.
Yeah, he was having trouble. Did he say if he still has to be quarantined? Did England change their rules?
I think he's in for 5 days, so he's already spent a day. He's got 4 more days.
He has to take those tests. He has to take the COVID test.
Right.
On day 2.
Continually.
Yeah.
Continually.
We're going on a cruise to Alaska August 1st. 15 days, I can't believe it.
Oh
And
my.
we expect the ship to be filled. We just have to bring our COVID vaccination card. And I guess if we feel comfortable not to wear a mask, or we can put it on, but there's no mask rules as far as I know.
Well, that was good.
Oh, we'll see.
I hope you have a wonderful time. Anybody who's traveling right now, they deserve to have a wonderful time.
Oh, I just came back from, I hadn't seen my sister for 18 months. She's
Oh
in
my.
Palos Verdes. So I just flew there, and I was there for 5 days. And,
Nice.
yeah, I've been traveling, but
I haven't at all.
I know.
Here.
And you can't get a vaccine, right? You're still not going to get it.
There we
Can't.
go.
Okay.
There we go, folks.
Hey, welcome back.
Apologies. I knew that would happen once I brought up that map of Israel, but I'm gonna I at least want to show you a map of Israel that we can look at just real
Oh,
quick,
yes,
that I had on my computer, not on my internet. So again, here we have the western boundary, the eastern boundary, and the southern boundary, southwest and southeast. You can see because there's two sides of the southern boundary, right? It's not
Right.
it's a diamond shape. So you've got, this is very close to the description of what we had in the Torah. This is exactly the same. The Mediterranean didn't really stop, other than this area of Gaza is
Right.
part of biblical Israel. And then of course here at the eastern border, the Jordan to the Dead Sea, that continues as a border. This area of the north, and originally the border went up further north up here. So
Mhm.
that border would have been a little bit bigger, and this border here would have been here. It wouldn't have had all of the Golan that is on the it's on the map here. So part of the Golan would not be part of Israel, though part of Lebanon be. So the border would be like this, with that part of the Golan not there. Though there were points in time when we have descriptions of biblical Israel, which go all the way up to here, which is for west, east, parts of Syria and Jordan, and definitely parts of those countries today. Which, again, when you talk about what's biblical Israel, it is much bigger.
Mhm.
Oops.
Oh, I can see this happening all night.
Here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
We're lucky the rabbi's even trying.
I know,
Yeah.
what time is it? It must be late in England or early in the morning. Aren't they 8 or,
7 hours ahead of you.
yeah, so he should be sleeping.
Right. It is sleep time.
Yeah, at the start, he said it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Hmm. When I told him I enjoyed the service, it was the JLTV one that I listened to both, but that one was spectacular, the one from JLTV. So, but I enjoyed the one from Bethany as well. Not as much.
Cheryl and I are trying to read the top of his hat.
North something.
Beyond the north?
Something could be.
Yeah. I don't know what it refers to at all.
I'm trying to see the clock on the wall.
Ah,
Well, I think I have to give up.
I'm not giving up. I'll wait.
I know. You're true.
Joyce, you're back as host.
I am, huh? Okay.
Joyce, how many people did you have in your group?
There were 8 of us. It
I
was,
wish I could have been there because
I-
I could have used it.
well, I wish you had been, and you're welcome. It's not a set group, so any Tuesday night at 4 o'clock
Yeah,
is,
but I'm in San Jose. I can't come.
oh,
It's a quick drive, Jay.
Move.
but if you're ever down here, you're welcome just to come for one session. You don't have to join the group and be staying in it. Anybody can come any Tuesday night.
That's very-
And 4 o'clock at the temple every Tuesday night, we're scheduled, and it really was deeply touching, and I'm very, very glad that we are doing this, because it's I just felt I had to give back in some way, because Rabbi Mark has been very supportive of everyone who's had a loss, and I think it's time to give back and be a support to the temple for those who are experiencing loss of any kind.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's really, really deeply touching, because it's real, and it's important, and I'm glad I'm doing it. And we only have 3 rules. Number 1, it's all confidential. What comes in the room stays in the room. Number 2, we must be honest. If somebody asks a question and you don't want to answer it, say, I don't want to answer it. Don't make us something up or avoid or evade. Just honest answers. And the
Authentic.
third is exactly. And the third is realize everybody's loss is unique. We are all different. We grieve differently, and there's no right and no wrong. We just accept everyone in the group for how they're grieving, because we are unique individuals and have different ways of handling the grief. And then we shared with each other how we were handling it, what we were doing. Some of us, and what I discovered, it's called rituals. We develop patterns of habits to deal with that important person not being there. And one of the things I shared was, after I have my bath in the morning, I put on Lee's cologne before I go get mine. And so it's on my hands, and I feel like part of him is with me during the day, because I start the day with his cologne. And I didn't realize that was a ritual. It was just something I started doing automatically. And everybody had their own rituals and their own way of handling it. And by sharing it, we learned and we grew. One other thing, we all know of the term post-traumatic stress. And
You're still here.
Yeah, we're here.
We're having a group therapy session.
Listen, that is phenomenal. I apologize for that. I actually restarted my computer because nothing was working, but I'm so glad you guys are still here. I knew that showing a map was going to be the end of it. That's what caused
Please
my
don't put
computer
up a
to
map
fail.
again, Rabbi.
Yeah,
You don't have to do it again. We'll
I'm not going to. So we're gonna. If it
Real
doesn't
quick
again,
though,
I'll
Joyce, how's your daughter?
She's home now, thank God, recovering, but it's painful and uncomfortable. And it was major surgery, and she's still hurting.
We're sending our prayers.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
But it was a lot of miracles and good stuff so far. So let's hope it continues.
Yeah. We had a miracle in that they didn't take her kidney. They just took the tumor, and we're waiting for a miracle that it's benign. So we don't know whether the tumor was malignant or benign. So we're waiting for the pathology report, and all we can do is wait.
yeah, let's hope it's a continued good news for her
Thank you.
and for your and for everybody in your family. They should continue in good health.
Thank you.
So if it does it again, I'll apologize. We'll abandon this. But I think I got on a different internet, restarted and got on a different band or whatever, different network. So we were looking at the boundaries, and it says Moses instructed the Israelites, saying, "This is the land you are to receive by lot as your hereditary portion." And hold on 1 second. Let me just make sure that it's recording now. This is the land you will receive as a hereditary portion, which the Lord has commanded to be given to the 9.5 tribes. For the Reubenite tribe by its ancestral house, the Gadite tribe by its ancestral houses, and the half tribe of Manasseh have already received their portions, right? We just read they got another side of the Jordan River. So they just gave up their portion, which means they were going to have a portion in the land of Israel. And instead, now those 2.5 tribes have received their portions across the Jordan, opposite Jericho on the east side, the Orient side, which is, again, that's what the word Orient actually means, Eastern, but the word Mizrach in Hebrew. So that is the other side. But it actually uses both words. It uses Kedma, which is the east, and also Mizracha. So it uses both words.
Mhm.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "These are the names of the men through whom the land shall be a portion for you." And so it's actually going to now tell you who's taking over in the next generation. And the way it says it is that these are the people who are going to take over in the next generation. And one, of course, is Eleazar the priest, who is Aaron's third oldest son, and Joshua, son of Nun, who is Moses's heir apparent. So those two are going to be the people who are in charge of everything, of all the separating up the land, deciding, kind of being the spiritual and political leaders. But in addition to that, there's going to be a tribal leader from each tribe. And it says, "You shall take a chieftain from each tribe through whom the land shall be apportioned." So from the names of these men, from the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Yefuneh. Now, he's the only one who was a tribal leader from the previous generation, who's now a leader again. Joshua was a tribal leader, but now he's like the head leader. He's been promoted up to the next level of management. He was from the tribe of Ephraim, but now he's one of the heads, along with Eleazar, of everybody. So Judah is still the tribal head, and he's a previous generation head. He's the only one in addition to Joshua, who came back with good reports. So he's still in charge, and he's in charge of his tribe. The other ones are all younger now. All the other leaders are going to be the ones who were younger than 20 when they came out of Egypt. From the Shimonite tribe. Now, again, why do we jump to Shimon? Because Reuben is on the other side, right? So he's already been apportioned. Now we're going through the tribes that are coming into the land and going to have a portion within the land of Israel, within that map. From the tribe, from the tribe of Shimonite tribe, Samuel, son of Amihud. From the tribe of Benjamin, Elidad, son of Chislon. From the Danite tribe, a chieftain, Buki. And again, it does say, again, for these guys, for Benjamin, it did not say Nasi. It does say here, it says from the Danite, which is why it says Nasi, a chieftain or prince, Buki, son of Yagli. From the descendants of Joseph, from the Manasseh tribe, a chieftain, Haniel, son of Ephod. Remember, half the tribe of Manasseh is on the other side, but half the tribe of Manasseh is on the Israel side. The other part of that tribe is Ephraim. So this is the one who took essentially Joshua's place now as being from representing the tribe and not representing everybody. From the Ephraimite tribe, a chieftain, Kemuel, son of Shiftan. So now he's the head of Ephraim. From the Zebulunite tribe, a chieftain, Elzaphan, son of Parnach. Oh. Oh, let me go. Uh-oh. Don't do that. That's not a good sign. Having problems? No, don't do this to me. Okay, let me just refresh the screen. Okay. Let me go a little further. Okay. I know this is not coming out good on your end. Hold it 1 second. I'm going to try to just get it so that it looks good. Okay. From the Issacharite tribe, a chieftain Paltiel, son of Azan. From the Naphtali tribe, a chieftain Pedachel, son of Amihud. Keeps doing this. It's not a good sign. It was these whom the Lord designated to allot portions to the Israelites in the land of Canaan. So that's the end of chapter 34. And at least I hope we can get to the end of Numbers.
You want to read it without showing it?
No. I think I got it.
Okay.
The Lord spoke to Moses in the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, saying, and again, still at the same place, at the steppes of Moab, and on the other side of the Jordan, instruct the Israelite people to assign out of the holdings a portion to them, towns for the Levites to dwell in. You shall assign to the Levites pasture land around their towns. So again, the Levites don't get their own portion, but they get a portion within everyone's. All the other tribes, the other 12 tribes, the Levites get to live there, and they get enough land to not only live, but also to pasture their flocks. The town shall be theirs to dwell in, and the pasture shall be for the cattle they own and all their other beasts. The town pasture you shall assign to the Levites shall extend 1,000 cubits outside the town wall all around. Now that's 1,000 foot and a half, so it's a decent amount of land, but it's not crazy. It's a normal area for pasturing, and it basically tells you that they get a place to live and a place to pasture their flock. You shall measure off 2,000 cubits outside the town on the east side, 2,000 on the south side, 2,000 on the west side, and 2,000 on the north side, with the town in its center. That shall be pasture for their towns. So it's a area for them, again, to be protected and to make sure that they get within the land of Israel. And then it says, in addition to that, the town shall you assign to the Levites shall comprise the 6 cities of refuge that you are to designate it for a manslayer to flee to which you shall add 42 towns. So the 6 cities of refuge are Levite cities. Those are managed essentially or designated for the Levites. Within those cities are within other tribes, right? So the tribe, it's like a state, and then within that state, there are cities or districts, if you will, regions within those states for the Levites. So 6 of those cities are these cities of refuge, but then there's 42 other cities or towns that are for the Levites as well. The total of the towns that you assign to the Levites shall be 48 towns with their pasture. And assigning,
when you said manslayer, I'm not quite understanding. If somebody commits a crime, they can run there or something?
Yep. So this is an interesting law. We get lots of discussion about this in the Talmud and in other texts, including Midrash, where people discuss these towns of refuge, these cities of refuge, which were places where people would go to if they unintentionally killed someone. It wasn't murder, it was manslaughter, right? So it was essentially a way for the person to avoid being killed in a blood feud for accidentally killing somebody. So again, it's the punishment that allows for people not to be killed or executed for killing someone, because it's blood for blood, it's life for life. But the problem is, if it's not intentional, if it wasn't premeditated murder, if it was an accident, the person would essentially be able to be killed unless there was a safe place, a sanctuary city for them to go to. And this is what these were. So these are 6 cities of refuge that are on the inside Israel. And it was a way for people essentially to, number one, be safe, but but it is a punishment, of course, in a way, because they have to live in those cities. And they're not allowed to come out of those cities. And if they come out of those cities, they can be killed. The avenger, the family member, can kill them if they come out of those cities. So it's kind of like it's a little of being in jail, if you will, in the sense that they didn't have prisons in those days. So they didn't have a place to put someone who essentially, killed somebody, let's say, driving down the road, they killed someone, and the driver today would be convicted of vehicular manslaughter, but they clearly didn't intentionally mean to kill that person, but they still killed them. And so they have to be punished. But how do you punish someone, in a situation where you don't have a jail? And so this was a way for them to have a way of punishing and protecting the person at the same time. So it says, in assigning towns from the holdings of the Israelites, take more from the larger groups and less from the smaller, so that each assigns towns to the Levites in proportion to the share it receives. So if a tribe like the Danites, or that's not even a great example, theirs wasn't the smallest, but if you go to some of these other tribes like Issachar or Zebulun, that were not large tribes, they can't possibly give as much as the larger tribes like Ephraim. So they had less that they had to give up for the Levites. The Lord spoke further to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you shall provide yourselves places to serve as cities of refuge." So here you actually get the description of the cities of refuge, to which a manslayer who has killed a person unintentionally may flee. So it's interesting, again, that it tells us about it before it goes into the description, but here it is. The city shall serve as a refuge from the avenger, so that the manslayer may not die unless he stood trial before the assembly. The towns that you thus assign shall be 6 cities of refuge in all. 3 cities shall be designated beyond the Jordan, and 3 shall be designated in the land of Canaan. They shall serve as cities of refuge. So yes, 3 of the cities were on the other side, in the Manasseh, half tribe of Manasseh, Gadite, Reubenite part on the Jordan, on the what's today the modern day Jordan, nation of Jordan. 3 cities are there, and then 3 cities of refuge in the land of Canaan. These 6 cities shall serve the Israelites and the resident alien among them for refuge, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally, very clear, unintentionally, may flee there. However, anyone, who strikes another with an iron object so that death results is a murderer, and a murderer must be put to death. So this is, again, very clear. This isn't for murderers, it's for people who unintentionally. If he struck him with a stone tool that could cause death and death resulted, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. So again, if you think, well, you didn't kill him with a knife, you killed him with a essentially like a hammer. Well, he's still a killer. Similarly, if the object with which he struck him was a wooden tool that could cause death and death resulted, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. So if he had a bat, like the equivalent of a bat, he killed him. It's not a knife, it's not a hammer, but it's still something he intended to cause harm with, and so he's still a murderer. So again, it's not just the object that you use that you determine it, but again, the intent and the fact that yes, you can kill somebody with other objects that are not just, again, the equivalent today is you wouldn't just say, well, you didn't kill him with a gun, so we only try murderers who kill someone with a gun. No, he used a knife, or he used an axe, or a blunt fork, whatever he used. His intent was to kill him, so he is put to death. The blood avenger himself shall put the murderer to death. It is he who shall put him to death upon encounter. So again, it's not that like the courts do it. The person who actually, the family member, is the one who actually kills the person who killed their family member. So that's a really dramatic way of exacting vengeance. Today, we allow, in the very few times in the United States that we actually execute people, we do allow the family to be there to witness the execution. But here in the Bible, they actually had to participate in the execution. They actually had to do it themselves, which again also kind of calls into question, did everybody do it? Well, they couldn't hire somebody else to do it. They couldn't rely on the courts to do it. They had to do it themselves. which again probably meant that there were certain people who said, you know what, I don't want to kill somebody, and so they didn't necessarily always have an eye for an eye, because there were probably situations where someone didn't want to do it. They just said, you know what, I don't want to kill somebody. So it is possible, very possible, that people didn't always do it. Again, so too, if he pushed him in hate or hurled something at him on purpose and death resulted, or if he struck him with enmity, oh no, it did it again. Hold it a second. I do not know why. I'm reloading this. Okay, I'm not gonna change it again. It is very strange why it's doing that. And it also says again, so I'm gonna keep going, or inadvertently dropped anything, deadly object of stone, and death resulted, though he's not an enemy of his and did not seek him harm. In such cases, the assembly shall decide between the slayer and the blood avenger. The assembly shall protect the manslayer from the blood avenger, and then the assembly shall restore him to the city of refuge to which he fled, and there he shall remain until the death of the high priest who is anointed with sacred oil. So what's interesting about this is that there is a time limit on how long you have to stay in the city of refuge. So we're going to get to this, which is, it could be that you're only there for a couple of years. It could be that you're there for 30 years. It seems like kind of a random thing, that when the high priest died, that's when everybody could go back to their homes. You can imagine there were people who were literally, waiting for the death of a high priest, or maybe wanting to kill the high priest. But it was considered to be essentially something of a miracle then when the high priest died, and people could go back to their homes if they were in a city of refuge. So it is a spiritual or mystical answer for how long the high priest would live. But again, they could have been high priest for 20 or 30 years. It's not again, if you happen to do it in the last year of when the high priest was alive, then you were lucky, I guess. But again, it is a finite time that you were there for. I think that's one of the interesting things. And again, there's a mystical element to this. Now, here's what it says: if the manslayer ever goes outside the city limits of the city of refuge to which he has fled, and the blood avenger comes upon him outside the limits of the city of refuge, and the blood avenger kills the manslayer, there's no blood guilt on his account, for he must remain inside the city of refuge until the death of the high priest. After the death of the high priest, the manslayer may return to his landholding. Such shall be your law of procedure throughout the ages on all your settlements. If anyone kills a person, the manslayer may be executed only on the evidence of witnesses. The testimony of a single witness against a person shall not suffice for a sentence of death. Doesn't mean you can't convict somebody or fine them or penalize them, but you cannot kill them based on one single witness, on one witness testimony. So again, the rabbis go into very interesting detail about how we are able to do this, which again, you have to have witnesses, meaning more than one, meaning two or more witnesses to the murder. And then you also have to then have people testify to the veracity of the witnesses, and even witnesses that can testify to the veracity of those witnesses. So there's a lot of witnesses that are required in order for a person to be executed, according to the Talmud at least. Because again, there is a recognition, though, even in the Torah, that a single person cannot testify for a sentence of death. It doesn't say that there can't be another penalty, but for death to be on the table, there has to be multiple witnesses, more than one witnesses. It also tells us, you may not accept a ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of a capital crime. He must be put to death. Nor may you accept ransom in lieu of flight to a city of refuge, enabling one to return to live on his land before the death of the priest. You shall not pollute the land in which you live, for blood pollutes the land, and the land can have no expiation for blood that is shed on it, except by the blood who shed it. You shall not defile the land which you live, in which I myself abide, for I, the Lord, abide among the Israelite people. I live amongst you. I live betoch b'nei Israel. I live amongst you. And so it's a very interesting idea, which again, you cannot have murder. You can't have a murder happen within your country without there being a penalty, without there being justice. And so God literally says, if there's no justice there in the land, I can't be there. I will not let you defile the land by allowing murderers to go free, to go unpunished. And again, this is kind of, at least from the Torah standpoint, at this point, you can't have a society, and you can't have people live, and God doesn't want to have a place where justice isn't being served. And this is a really important idea in the Torah. And I guess one could say, for those of us who believe the Torah is a guide for our lives, it shouldn't be acceptable in our country either. And so the idea harkens back to the very beginning, to Cain and Abel, because again, what happens when Cain kills Abel is his blood goes into the land. It's like the blood is there shed on the land, and that blood polluted, just as Abel's blood polluted the land, and the earth cried out to God. That's what God says. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the land. It's almost again that the land becomes polluted, defiled. That's the words that are used, by blood being shed in that land, and that there has to be expiation for it. So one of it is, again, the punishment. You can't buy your way out. You can't get out of your crimes by being wealthy. It says so. You can't get out of you can't kill someone and then get off because you're wealthy. You can't kill someone by accident and then not go to a city of refuge by buying off the rest of the people. This isn't acceptable. Cannot have one standard of law for the wealthy. And of course, we've seen that. We've seen that happen far too often in our own country, and it causes a great deal of pain when that happens. And again, every year in June, when we say Kaddish for Ron Goldman at our synagogue, every year in June, when we read Ron's name, which we do, it is a terrible loss. It's a terrible feeling to know that this man, who was my age, who would have been maybe a father or grandfather by now, never got to live a life. And so his blood essentially cries out to us and says, this was a murder that was never brought to justice. And so it is a terrible pain for me, and it should be a terrible pain for all of us whenever that happens. But there obviously are high profile situations where it calls into question our whole system of justice. So when the wealthy or the famous or anybody, for whatever reason, gets off from a crime, or justice is not served, especially in the case of murder, it really calls into question all of our safety, all of our security, and it's a psychic damage to everybody. It should be. And so it pained me again to read this and to reflect on this in the shadow of another year that's gone by without justice for Kim and for her family. All right, everybody. Though it's very nice to see that her son Sam, our young man, wonderful young man who has celebrated bar mitzvah, is now off to college. He's on a basketball scholarship to Gustavus Adolphus in the wonderful state of Minnesota. So Sam is going to play basketball. So very proud of him, and he's a great student and a great kid. And he is definitely making his family proud, and making his uncle, who would have been very proud of him, going off to college this year. So it's not all sadness, but there is that shadow of sadness that never leaves that family, and really should not leave our country. So let's read the last chapter of Numbers, shall we? Because at least we can finish that. and we'll read into Deuteronomy too. I don't want to get too far behind. The family heads and the clans of the descendants of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, one of the Josephite clans, came forward and appealed to Moses and the chieftains, family heads of the Israelites. So now we go back to Numbers 27, to the daughters of Zelophehad. And so now we have whatever happened to those people? Because the last we heard was that Moses would take it under advisement. And so now this is the way the story ends, which interestingly is the way the chapter ends. And it continues the theme of what we're just reading about, which is justice. How do we create a system of justice? And what's so important here, folks, is that as we enter the land, we haven't even entered the land yet. Israel is already coming up with a system of justice that will exist in a land that's not even theirs yet. And this is so brilliant. And this is actually something that happened in the modern nation of Israel, which is that Israel was already working on laws, was already working on a Supreme Court, was already working on how to create a system of justice in their land so that when the British left and when the war was over, that Israel was able to immediately go into a system of police, a system of justice, which is very important because in other countries, even today, like today, I don't mean 70 years ago, which is also recent, but even today, new countries, new countries that existed, like, you know, the newest countries that exist, like South Sudan or Aceh and Indonesia. I mean, these countries were brought out of war, Eritrea for that matter. These newest countries that we have, they almost always descend into chaos, internal chaos. I'm not talking about they're still fighting with their neighbors. That happens sometimes too. I'm talking about countries that are created, and then there's no order. There's no system of law and order, and they descend into chaos internally, and they are just they're nightmare places to live. So it's very, very common. And by the way, it happened in Yugoslavia. They don't have to go to Africa and to Asia. It happened in Yugoslavia, where you had a country that fell apart, and you had terrible bloodshed that happened afterwards. And again, those countries, for the most part, have stabilized, though some of former Yugoslavia is some of the more corrupt and dangerous places in Europe, but parts of it are not. And parts of it, you know, Croatia, much of Slovenia, Croatia, northern part of Yugoslavia is very stable, very safe. There's good system of laws, but there's other places in Serbia and in other parts of southern Yugoslavia that, and for that matter, even Macedonia, where things were not so smooth and still aren't smooth. So it's very interesting that Israel has laws essentially and deals with justice even before they have the land. That's what's so amazing about the way the Torah gives it to us. So we have the laws of the city of refuge, and now we go back to the daughters of Zelophehad, which is not a murder situation. It's not a situation of, you know, immediate justice and like dramatic justice, but it is an issue of fairness and justice and equity, not just for women, because everybody talks about it being for women, but for families. And how do families that would maybe not have protection, how does the law protect them? And so here's what it says. The daughters came forward, as we know, and they said, the Lord commanded my Lord to assign the land to the, first, the people of Gilad come up and say, what's happening with this situation? Because they say, the Lord commanded my Lord to assign the land to the Israelites as shares by lot. And my Lord was further commanded by the Lord to assign the shares of your kinsman Zelophehad to his daughters. So again, the daughters of Zelophehad in chapter 27 get a property. They get the property, which was very good and very nice. But the rest of Manasseh says, well, wait a second. If they marry persons from another Israelite tribe, their share will be cut off from our ancestral portion and be added to the portion of the tribe into which they marry. Thus our allotted portion will be diminished. And even when the Israelites observe the Jubilee, their share will be added to that of the tribe to which they marry, and their share shall be cut off from the ancestral portion of the tribe. So they say, if these women marry outside the tribe, then our tribe loses their stuff. And so Moses, at the Lord's bidding, instructed the Israelites, saying, the plea of the Josephite tribe is just. So Manasseh's claim here against the daughters, it's not really against the daughters, but in consideration of the daughters is, hey, wait a second. We better amend the law that we amended. because they already amended the law once to say that the women can inherit, but then they further amend it by saying a further amendment is, this is what the Lord has commanded concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. They must marry, they may marry anyone they wish, but they have to marry someone in their father's tribe. They have to marry from within the clan, one of the parts of that tribe, which is a lot of people, but they have to marry within Manasseh. No inheritance, and then this is the law extended out. No inheritance of the Israelites may pass from one tribe to another, but the Israelites must remain bound to the ancestral portion of his tribe. Every daughter, so again, started out with the daughters of God and Manasseh, but it extends to every tribe. So if it happens for them, it's not just for Manasseh, it's for everybody. Every daughter among the Israelite tribes who inherits a share must marry someone from a clan of her father's tribe, in order that every Israelite may keep his ancestral share. Thus no inheritance shall pass over from one tribe to another, but the Israelite tribes shall remain bound to each its portion. The daughters of Zelophehad did as the Lord commanded. So the law, first law, is a specific case, but it's extended out to everybody. Now, if they marry persons from another Israelite tribe, the share will be cut off from the ancestral portions and be added. But wait a second, that is a computer glitch, because the important thing is they married someone within their tribe. Give me 1 second, I'll refresh it, if I can get it. And let me just finish up, get to where we finished. And here's what it says. Machlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah, Zelophehad's daughters, were married to the sons of their uncles. They married their cousins, marrying to the clans of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and so their share remained in the tribe of Joseph, their tribe of their father's clan. So it stays within Manasseh. So that is the second to last. That's the penultimate line in Numbers. The very last line is this. These are the commandments and the regulations that the Lord enjoined upon the Israelites through Moses on the steps of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho. As we say, it's come to the end of the book. Chazak, chazak, benit chazek. Be strong, let all of us be strengthened. Now, normally I would say we definitely should end here, even though it's we still have a little bit of time. I do want to say, I don't want to get too far behind. So let's at least start the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim. As I promised you, I hoped we could get to the beginning of it, and we will. We're going to get to the very beginning of Deuteronomy, and we're going to read the first chapter of Deuteronomy, because the last words of Numbers were that these are the regulations, that these are the laws given to us, which is interesting because it really is the story of the journey. And even the last portion, the last chapters, are a recounting of the journey. But interestingly, it finishes with, these are the rules, these are the regulations, these are the laws that we're supposed to follow. And so then Deuteronomy begins with the words, Ele Devarim. It is definitely going to be tricky to zoom in anymore. These are the words that Moses addressed to all Israel on the other side of the Jordan, through the wilderness in the Arava near Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Laban and Chatzerot, Dizachav. So it says it's on the other side of the Jordan River. And what it does is it gives us a slightly different description of how we got to that place than what we just read at the end of Numbers. And I did want to kind of show this to you so that you could actually see with your own eyes that I'm not making this up. Slightly different. It's not fundamentally different. We went through the Sinai and we came up through the other side of the Jordan, and we're on the Jordanian side of what will be Israel, because remember, the tribes of the Gadites, the Reubenites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, they get that area now. That is their area. They're crossing essentially from Israel into Israel, because they are moving from a portion that they captured from the Canaanites. And here it says it's 11 days from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Sierra route, which is 11 days. That's all it should take. Again, maybe with hundreds of thousands of people, it would take longer. But from Mount Sinai, which is the other name Horeb is known by, right, to Kadesh Barnea, which is the place where they sent in the spies, is 11 days. was in the 40th year on the first day of the 11th month that Moses addressed the Israelites in accordance with the instructions the Lord had given him for them. So again, it's telling us, again, it's 40 years later, but it's the first day of the 11th month, which is just before, in this case, just before Nisan, before spring. So it's just before we get into the springtime, but it is 40 years almost to the day that they left, because they left in the first month. So it's not it's the 11th month, so it's not the 12th month, it's not the last month, excuse me, it's the second to the last month. But they are almost 40 years exactly from when they left Egypt, which because they left on the 15th day of the first month. They left on Passover. And here it tells us, after he had defeated, meaning, after he defeated Sichon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and King Og Bashan, who dwelt at Ashtaroth and at Edrei. I think that, again, this is after God defeated them. On this, I don't know why the he there is with Moses or with a lowercase h. On the other side of the Jordan, the land of Moab, Moses undertook to expound this teaching. And it says here, on the other side of the Jordan River, Moshe begins the Torah, the Torah Hazot, which again is why it's capitalized. It's another way of describing the book of Deuteronomy, HaTorah Hazot, this teaching. So it sets up the book of Deuteronomy from the beginning as a teaching, as a Torah. That's the word it's used. Torah Hazot, this Torah. The Lord our God spoke to us at Horeb, saying, "You have stayed long enough at this mountain." Mount Sinai, God says at some point, at least according to Moses' account, it's time for you to move. It's time for you to get out. Which is, again, essentially, you got to leave Mount Sinai. Not, I think it's time for us to go, but God said it's time for you to go. You have a place to go to. You have a journey ahead. It's time for you to go, which is a little different than it says in Leviticus or again, more accurately in the book of Numbers, which tells us about the journey. Start out and make your way to the hill country of the Amorites and to all their neighbors in the Arabah, the hill country of the Shephelah, the Negev, the seacoast, the land of the Canaanites, and the Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. So when I tell you that there's a slightly different boundary to the land of Israel, at least in the north and east, it says right here, you go all the way to the Euphrates, to the Tigris-Euphrates area of Syria. So that's a pretty far north and pretty far east border. So this is, the southern part is the same. The Lebanon, as I told you, is pretty much what they said, which is further north than Israel is today. And the seacoast, that's the Mediterranean, that's the same. The southern western borders, those can't change. Well, they could. The southern border could change. It changed for Israel when Israel captured the Sinai, but it doesn't in the Bible. But it does in the north and the east change considerably from what Israel has today. See, I place the land at your disposal. Go take possession of the land that the Lord swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to assign to them and to their heirs after them. So again, this is Moses repeating it, because it doesn't say, go take the land that I swore to you, but that the Lord swore to you. Thereupon I said to you, which is Moses, I cannot bear the burden of you by myself. The Lord your God has multiplied you until you are today as numerous as the stars of the sky, which is a fulfillment of the biblical prophecy that you're going to be as numerous as the stars of the sky, the sand on the seashores. May the Lord, the God of your fathers, increase your numbers 1,000-fold and bless you as he promised you. That seems nice. But this next line, how can I bear unaided the trouble of you and the burden and the bickering? So you think on one hand, oh, he's really proud of us. we've multiplied and we become this great nation. And then he says, I can't stand it anymore. I can't deal with it. And that's the word. How can Echa? Oh, how can I deal with it? That's what Echa means. It means lamentations. The book of Lamentations in Hebrew is Echa. That's the name of it. It is not good. And so Moses is saying here, essentially, I can't do it anymore. Now, he doesn't say that he doesn't want to still be there with them, interestingly, because it does seem like in Deuteronomy that Moses is very hesitant to leave or to die for that matter, which is interesting because he doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. But he doesn't want to do this work all by himself. Or again, maybe he's done with the job. He's not done with life. Maybe he just wants to retire a little bit, or at least get it a little easier. Because he says, pick from each of your tribes men who are wise, discerning, and experienced, and I will appoint them as your heads. So he does say you can pick them. Havu lachem anashim. Again, they have to be wise, discerning, experienced. They have to have those great things. But then I will sign off on them. And you answered me and said, what you propose is good. Now, again, this seems to harken back to when he did it originally during the time of being at Mount Sinai. What's interesting about this is that it doesn't seem to be, he seems to be going back and forth on when this happens or how this happens, because this definitely is a flashback. There's no question that, again, he says that I did this. But there does seem to be a situation where he's kind of mixing up when he does this, because he does it twice. He does it when they are first in the beginning of the book of Numbers. And then he also does it later on, we just heard, when they are about to come into the land. And so it happens twice. And it does seem like Moses is intentionally being fuzzy about how he's doing this and how he's speaking to them. Because he's speaking to them both as a father to some extent and as a grandfather. He's speaking to them multi-generationally. He's definitely hearkening back to those times, but it also seems to be a reminder to these people at this moment, which is that he's transitioning leadership, which is why he starts with this. He doesn't really talk about the Sea of Reeds. He doesn't talk about what happened before that. He's going to jump to that. I mean, he will jump around chronologically, but he's gone to this point where, remember, it was Yitro's idea for him to appoint these people right before they got the 10 Commandments. They already crossed the Sea of Reeds, though. And they're about to get the law. And so he seems to be mixing up or reminding people intentionally that just as he's chosen new leaders or signed off, they've chosen them. But just as he's signing off on these leaders, he's signing off on a new generation of leaders too, the next generation of these tribal leaders. So they said, you answered to me and said, what you propose to do is good. So I took your tribal leaders, experienced men, and appointed them heads over you, chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, chiefs of 50s, chiefs of 10s, and officers for your tribes. I charged your magistrates at that time as follows: hear out your fellow men and decide justly between any man and a fellow Israelite or a stranger. And again, it doesn't say anything about Yitro being the one who suggested this in the first place. And why, again, we start with this, because we're doing it again. You shall not be partial in judgment, and hear out low and high alike. Fear no man, for judgment is God's. And any matter that is too difficult for you, you shall bring it to me, and I will hear it. Thus I instructed you at that time about the various things that you should do. We set out from Horeb and traveled the great and terrible wilderness that you saw. And again, doesn't have anything here yet about what happened at Mount Sinai. So you didn't miss it. It doesn't say what happened at Mount Sinai. It says that at Mount Sinai, he appointed these leaders, which is interesting again, because he doesn't talk about what happened after that with the sense of getting the law. Again, from this, the way he's telling the story right at the beginning of Deuteronomy is really talking about more about how they appointed leaders and how leaders have, well, you'll see. Let's keep going. We set out from Horeb and traveled the great and terrible wilderness that you saw, along the road to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Lord our God had commanded us when we reached Kadesh Barnea. I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God has given to us. Again, this is right before we're about to cross into the land, the incident of the spies at Kadesh Barnea. See, the Lord your God has placed the land at your disposal. Go up, take possession as the Lord, the God of your fathers, promised you. Fear not and be not dismayed. And all of you came to me and said, let us send men ahead to reconnoiter the land for us to bring back word on the route we shall follow and the cities we shall come to. I approved of the plan, and so I selected 12 men of your tribe, one from each tribe. Now, this is the Shlach Lecha. This is the portion from Numbers. We read this in chapter 12. We read it a few months ago, so I don't expect everyone to remember it. But when we read it, folks, you are not wrong in saying that this sounds a little different than what we read back in Numbers. Here, it says it was the people's idea to send spies. It says so. You came to me and said, let us send men ahead to reconnoiter the land. That is not what it says in Numbers. It's not what it says. Again, I don't expect everybody to remember, but do you remember what it says in Numbers? Does anybody remember what it says in Numbers? Anybody? Hello?
I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Okay, well, let me just show you. Well, I probably shouldn't, but it says that God told him to do it.
Oh,
I'm not gonna go to it. I can see how jerky it's being right now. Yeah, it says that God did it. Now, look, whether people were supposed to read Numbers and Deuteronomy at the same time, I already said this at the beginning. We're not sure. We're not sure. But we have to reconcile these. So the rabbi said that yes, indeed, Numbers skips over that part, that the people said, let's send spies, and then God said, send spies, that God agreed to it, but it was the people who wanted to do it in the first place. So the words of Shlach Lecha begin, God told Moses to send spies, send spies, Shlach Lecha, send for yourself spies. It doesn't say the people said, hey, let's send spies. The Torah says, God said, send spies. Here, it doesn't even say that God approved it. It says that Moses approved it. And it says, Moses, I selected 12 of your men, one from each tribe. So again, the beginning of Deuteronomy is about the tribal leaders, the people who were picked by Moses during the time of Yitro, which Deuteronomy doesn't say even Yitro was involved in that. This is a suggester of that, the inspiration, the guide. I mean, it was Yitro's idea. Doesn't give him credit for that. And the other difference is, so again, if we didn't read Exodus, we wouldn't know about that. If we just read Deuteronomy, we wouldn't have known that it was Yitro's idea. And we also would, if we only read Deuteronomy, we would think it was Moses's response to the people that led him to send the spies. So it is a different, slightly different take, which again, our rabbis have come up with answers for how those things can both be true. Also possible that it's just written by a different person with a different intent. And the intent here, folks, is to show us that our leadership has been messed up from the very beginning. From the very first time that Moses started picking people, which was done out of their own kind of inability to make good decisions because they were burdensome to begin with, that these problems continued and continue, folks. I mean, that's really the point of this, which is that there is this real question that Moses has over us right now, which is, did I do a good job with the last group of people that I've now selected to take us the rest of the way, to take us home? So, so I selected 12 of your men, one from each tribe. They made out from the hill country, came to the Wadi Eshkol, and spied it out. Oh man. It is jumping around with the, here we go. They took some of the fruit of the land with them and brought it down to us. And they gave us this report. It's a good land that the Lord our God is giving to us. Oh my gosh. Just stop moving around. Oh man. Okay. We're almost done, folks. Oh man. Those two verses are not popping up for some reason. I will read them. I will read them, and I have no idea why this is not working on the just putting up the text, but let me read it to you. So here we go. I'm just going to read these two chapters, and then it should be good after that. So verse 26 says, "But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Lord. You grumbled in your tents and said, the Lord hates us. So he brought us out to the land out of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made our hearts melt in fear. They say, the people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there." Which again is a little different than what it says here, but translation again is slightly different, but the intention is the same. We can't do it. And I said to you, have no dread of them. None other than the Lord your God who goes before you will fight for you, just as he did for you in Egypt before your very eyes. And in the wilderness where you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a man carries a son, all the way that you traveled until you came to this place. Yet for all that, you have no faith in the Lord your God, who goes on before you on your journeys to scout the place where you are to encamp in fire by night and in cloud by day, in order to guide you on the route that you are to follow. So again, Moses tells the people, you have no faith in God. God's been with us all the way up till here to the Kadesh Barnea place. God has led us to this place. And as a matter of fact, God is our scout. So here it seems to be, again, you have no faith in God that you even had to send scouts in the first place. And God is the one who's actually scouting out the place for you ahead of time. God goes out before we go out. God goes out according to this. God goes out and scouts out the place and is there to protect you. And yet you have no faith. And here's what it says. Moses is clearly upset, but he says, Lord God heard your complaint. He was angry. He vowed, not one of these men, this evil generation, shall see the good land that I swore to give to their fathers. None except for Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he shall see it. And to him and his descendants will I give the land on which he set foot, because he remained loyal to the Lord. Now we know there's somebody else, don't worry. Because of you, the Lord was incensed with me too. And he said, you shall not enter either. Joshua, the son of Nun, who attends to you, he shall enter it, and imbue him with strength, for he shall allot it to Israel. Now, what's interesting about the way Moses just recounted the story from Numbers is that it is different from what we read in Numbers. It is different. First of all, Joshua, according to Numbers, is one of those spies. He was representing the tribe of Ephraim. So here we have a slightly different version of how Joshua winds up being in charge, because here it doesn't say that Joshua is one of the spies. Not only that, more importantly, I know you're going to say it, Moses says that the reason he can't go up into the land is because of them, not the story of him striking the rock, right? But because of their lack of faith in that story. It's astounding, because this is a major departure from what we already read. I mean, I would say it is not major, but it is significant. Let's put it that way. And you do have to come up with, and the rabbis have to come up with a rationale for why Moses says this. So, again, the way they read it is that, well, okay, Moses struck the rock, but it's really this scene that sets the stage for it, that Moses at this point, knew that it was all over for him. But here, Moses is pretty literal in saying that this is what caused me not to be able to go up the land. So again, Moses, right from the beginning of Deuteronomy, is establishing the fact that there have been problems in the leadership up until now. And it is a troubling setup, if you will, from the standpoint of before Moses is now going to, again, we're going to have Deuteronomy, a retelling of being at Mount Sinai and getting the 10 Commandments. And we do have another version of it coming up real soon, trust me. But right away, Moses is getting on with the people for not being good and not having good leaders from the outset. And so that's the way Deuteronomy starts. Deuteronomy starts with, this is how we got to this place. And this is how I essentially am not able to finish this journey with you. And that's what's established at the beginning of Deuteronomy. So it's really one of right off the bat, we've had bad leadership. We are not ready yet. We hope we will be, but I failed essentially. I mean, he just kind of admitted I failed because of you, but I failed. And this is if this is Moses's version of events, then Moses here doesn't take responsibility for why he doesn't get to go into the land, and shifts it onto the people themselves. So it's a very strange way to begin the book, which is basically not only sad in a way. I mean, I think you can see it's kind of sad, but it's also telling us that, at least according to Moses, every time he tries to turn over authority to people, it doesn't work. And here we have, and we're going to finish with this today. Joshua, the son of Nun, who attends you, he shall enter it, and imbue him with strength, for he shall allot it to Israel. Moreover, your little ones, who you said would be carried off, your children, who do not know good from bad, they shall enter it. To them will I give it, and they shall possess it. As for you, turn about and march into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds. So go down south now. That's the way you're going to go. You replied to me, saying, we stand guilty before the Lord. We will now go up and fight, just as the Lord our God commanded us. You girded yourself with war and gear and recklessly started for the whole country. And that is in the book of Numbers. It does say to the people, after they were told by God, you're not coming in, they decided, oh, we'll do it anyway. We'll do it. But the Lord said to me, warn them, do not go up and do not fight, since I'm not in your midst, else you'll be routed by your enemies. I spoke to you, but you would not listen. You fought at the Lord's command and willfully marched into the whole country. And the Amorites who lived in those hills came out against you like so many bees and chased you, and they crushed you at Hormah in Seir, which is what we read about. Again, you wept before the Lord, but the Lord would not heed your cry or give ear to you. Thus, after you had remained at Kadesh all that long time, which is a weird place to end, so we're not going to end there, we marched back to the wilderness by the Sea of Reeds, as the Lord had spoken to me, and skirted the hill country of Seir a long time. So that's where we're going to finish, folks, which is, again, we made it. And again, now, of course, it's messing up again. But Deuteronomy begins with how we got to this place, and it's not all good. There's hope. I mean, Moses is telling the people, your generation, you're young, you people, you next generation, you're the people that get to finish this. But Moses is essentially really, really warning the people, you better do better than your parents did. And essentially, we already know that they've had opportunities, and we've seen already, they haven't always, this next generation has not always reached their potential yet. So there is a sense that, well, we hope that we'll do better. But remember, when we read about Moses striking the rock, that was really that was Moses losing his temper with that next generation. With the next generation was the one that came to him and said, "Where's the water, Moses?" So this is this is a generation it's still, maybe they've done better than their parents, but there's still a lot of questions. And Moses is telling them that. Moses is telling them, look, every time I've tried to turn over, oh my gosh, there's a fox in the backyard. I just saw a fox run through their backyard. I swear, a fox. Like literally, I could see somebody blowing a horn right now, running through and chasing that fox with some dogs. I can't believe what I just saw.
Get the
It's not
dog.
Oh my God,
it was
you
not
could go fox hunting.
It was not. I literally just saw a fox run through their backyard. I mean, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. So the fox looked at me just now, by the way, like, what are you doing out? But I just saw the fox look at me, and it's so cute because it was not, we're used to seeing coyotes obviously all the time. I see coyotes regularly, and coyotes are like a mangy dog compared to this beautiful fox that just walked by. I swear, I cannot tell you what I just saw. And the fox turned and looked at me was literally like, I can't believe that. And they don't have a big, huge backyard, but it's a beautiful, it's a very nice backyard, but it's not big. And I literally just saw a fox walk through the backyard, look at me, stared at me, and then walk past. Oh my gosh, that is literally like English country. It's like an English country, like I'm in the English country. Well, anyways, folks, I appreciate your patience.
Rabbi, a special prayer for seeing a fox for the first time.
Well, it's definitely it could be a Maaseh Bereshit. Thank you, God, for the wonderful works of creation. But I don't think I've ever seen a fox in the wild. It was beautiful. I mean, I'm really a beautiful animal. And by the way, foxes are prevalent in our fables too. We have fox fables in Judaism. The foxes are always considered to be sly. They're in all the myths and fables are the sly, cunning animal. But they are. We have fox fables, just like Aesop had fox fables. We have fox fables in Judaism. So they are not always seen as they're seen as clever, and so I think that they were kind of they were sometimes seen as a Jewish animal because they use their wits to survive, and oftentimes were hunted. So I will tell you that there was a little bit of that kind of, the fox has to get by on his wits kind of thing. So anyways, I hope everyone stays well. Again, we will not have class next week, but I will look forward to seeing all of you soon. And we are going to have services again. We'll have virtual services on this Friday. We have some really good new music. And we're also going to have services live in person again, August 13th. So hope everybody stays well. And thank you again, Joyce, so much for facilitating the grief group. And again, I hope by the time I come back and see everybody that again, everybody's and stays healthy and stays mentally and physically healthy. So have a great summer, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I hope everybody stays good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here.